The twin suns were setting behind the rust-colored towers of the alien city when Eli locked up his small workshop for the night. The day had been long and tiring. He had fixed a few scrap drones, welded broken metal doors, and repaired one leaking oxygen pipe. It wasn't much, but it kept him alive. Eli was a human, one of the few left on this side of the galaxy. Most people here didn't trust humans. They said humans were too emotional, too unpredictable. But Eli didn't care what others thought. He was a mechanic, and machines didn't care about who fixed them. Machines only cared about steady hands and patience. He was about to turn off the lights when he heard a faint sound. It was soft, like the whimper of a small creature. He frowned and looked around. The sound came again, this time from behind a pile of old engine parts near the back door. Eli grabbed a wrench for safety and walked closer. "Who's there?" he called out. No one answered. He slowly moved the pile aside and froze. A small alien girl was curled up in the corner. Her clothes were torn and covered in dust. Her legs, if they could be called that, were badly damaged. Metal bones stuck out where skin should have been, and sparks flickered from the joints. She looked no older than 7 or 8. Eli dropped the wrench in shock. "Hey, easy. I won't hurt you," he said softly. The girl's big violet eyes looked up at him, filled with fear and pain. Her voice was weak, trembling. "Please, don't tell them I'm here." Eli crouched down beside her. "Tell who?" he asked, but she shook her head and winced as she tried to move. Her mechanical legs made a grinding noise and she cried out softly. "Don't move," Eli said quickly. "You'll make it worse." He looked closer at her injuries. Her legs were part metal, part organic. Whoever built them used advanced tech, way beyond anything found in the slums. But the power cores were burned out, and the connections were torn. Without help, she wouldn't last the night. Eli hesitated. Helping an alien child could bring trouble. The city guards didn't like humans getting involved in alien affairs. But leaving her here to die didn't sit right with him either. He sighed. "All right, kid. Let's get you fixed up." The girl looked up, surprised. "You'll help me?" "Yeah," Eli said, trying to sound casual. "I fix broken things. You just happen to be one of them." He carried her gently to his work table. She was lighter than he expected, like most aliens her kind. Her breathing was uneven and her metal parts hummed weakly. "What's your name?" he asked while setting her down. "Lyra," she whispered. "My name is Lyra." "All right, Lyra," Eli said. "I'm Eli. I'm going to try to fix your legs, okay? But you have to stay still." She nodded, watching him with wide eyes. Eli worked fast, pulling out his old toolkit. He cleaned the metal joints and reconnected the wiring. His hands moved with the calm rhythm of someone who had done this all his life. He didn't ask where she came from or what happened to her. For now, fixing her was all that mattered. After an hour, he managed to power one of the legs enough for movement. It twitched slightly, making Lyra smile. It moved," she said softly. "Not bad for a first try," Eli said, trying to hide his grin. "But you'll need new power cores for a full repair. And those aren't easy to find." Lyra looked worried. "Then I'll go. I don't want to bring you trouble." Eli shook his head. "You can't even walk. You'll stay here until I find the parts." She stared at him for a moment, unsure. No one had spoken to her kindly in a long time. She nodded slowly. "Thank you," she whispered. Outside, faint sounds echoed through the alley, hover drones flying by, scanning the streets with red beams. Eli looked through the window and frowned. Something was happening. The city was under patrol and they were searching for someone. He turned back to Lyra. "You said don't tell them you're here. Who are they?" She looked down, silent. Her small hands trembled. "Bad people," she finally said. "They hurt me. They want to take me back." Eli didn't press her for more. He covered her with an old blanket and dimmed the lights. "Rest now," he said. "We'll figure this out tomorrow." As he sat back in his chair, exhaustion washed over him. He looked at the little alien girl sleeping on his table and sighed. What had he gotten himself into this time? Outside, the patrol drones hovered closer, scanning every corner. One beam of red light swept across his workshop window. Eli froze. His heart pounded as the beam lingered for a moment, then moved on. He let out a slow breath. "You'd better be worth the trouble, kid," he muttered. But deep down, he already knew. Something about this girl was different. The way her body flickered with hidden energy, the strange design of her mechanical legs and the faint symbols engraved into her metal bones. She wasn't just a lost child, and Eli had no idea that by helping her, he had just stepped into a story that would shake the entire galaxy. Morning came slowly over the metal rooftops of the slum city. The light from the twin suns spilled through the cracks in Eli's workshop, catching dust in the air like floating sparks. The sound of humming engines, shouting merchants, and distant sirens filled the streets. It was another normal day in a place where nothing was ever really normal. Eli woke up in his chair, his back aching. He rubbed his eyes and looked toward the work table. Lyra was still there, sleeping quietly. Her face looked peaceful now, no longer twisted in pain. The old blanket covered her small body, and the faint hum of her damaged exo-legs filled the silence like a weak heartbeat. Eli sighed. He should have taken her to the city's med bay, but humans weren't allowed inside most alien hospitals. And even if he tried, they would have taken her away. He didn't know who she was or what trouble followed her, but he had already made his choice last night. He stood, stretched his arms, and whispered, "All right, Eli. You fix machines, not mysteries. But this time, you do both." He turned on the old generator. The workshop lights flickered to life and tools on the walls began to hum softly. He picked up a small welding torch and leaned over Lyra's legs. The circuits were fried beyond repair. The only way to save her legs was to replace the core servos, but those parts were banned technology. Only black market dealers still traded them, and the risk was high. Lyra woke up slowly, blinking at the bright lights. "You're still here," she said quietly. Eli chuckled. "Of course I am. Who else is gonna fix you, kid?" Her lips curved into a weak smile. "You don't even know me." Eli kept working as he spoke. "Don't need to. You were hurt. That's enough." She watched him carefully. "Why help me? Humans don't usually help my kind." Eli paused. The question hit him deeper than he expected. "Maybe because your kind never helped mine either," he said, his tone soft. "But that doesn't mean we have to keep being cruel." There was silence after that, broken only by the sound of tools clicking and metal scraping. As the day went on, Eli realized he needed parts. He couldn't finish her legs without them. He grabbed his old jacket and turned to her. "Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone. Not even if they say they're friends." Lyra looked worried. "Where are you going?" "To get what you need," he said. "That's a promise." He walked out into the streets. The city was buzzing with news. Posters flashed on giant holoscreens, images of a royal emblem, a crown, and the words, "Missing Princess of the Empire." "Reward, 10 million credits." Eli frowned. The alien face on the poster looked familiar, but he didn't stop to think about it. He moved quickly through the alleys, heading toward the junk market. The market was a maze of noise, oil smoke, and danger. Every stall sold something illegal. Spare droid limbs, plasma rifles, even old human tech. Eli found the one dealer he trusted, an insectoid named Krava. "You again," Krava hissed, his 6 eyes blinking fast. "What do you want this time, human?" "Servo cores," Eli said. 2, small model. Krava's antennae twitched. "Hard to find. Banned after the war, expensive." Eli threw a small pouch of credits on the counter. "This is all I got." Krava opened the pouch, clicked his tongue, and leaned closer. "You're hiding something, Eli. What's it for?" Eli stared him down. "You don't need to know." Krava chuckled. "Dangerous. Fine, wait here." He disappeared into the shadows behind his stall. Minutes later, he returned with a small metal case. Inside were 2 glowing servo cores. "Fresh enough," Krava said. "Don't die using them." Eli grabbed the case and left without another word. When he returned to the workshop, Lyra was awake and sitting up, playing with a small broken drone. She had taken it apart and somehow made it hover again using her fingers. Energy lines glowed faintly under her skin. Eli froze. "How did you do that?" Lyra looked at him, startled. I just fixed it." "Like you fix things." Eli frowned. "That wasn't a fix, that was something else." She lowered her head, scared she had done something wrong. "Please don't send me away." Eli's voice softened. "I'm not sending you anywhere. I just want to know what you are." "I don't know," she whispered. "But the bad people said I was a weapon." The words chilled him. He crouched down beside her. "You're not a weapon, Lyra, you're just a kid. And I made you a promise to help you walk again." He opened the metal case and showed her the glowing servo cores. "These will make your legs strong again, maybe even better than before." Her eyes widened with hope. Really? Really? Eli said with a small grin. But it's gonna hurt a bit. You ready? She nodded bravely. Hours passed as Eli worked. Sparks flew. The smell of burnt metal filled the air. Lyra gritted her teeth, but didn't cry. When it was finally done, Eli stepped back and smiled. All right, try them. Lyra moved her legs slowly and then stood up. The servos hummed smooth and powerful. For the first time, she took a shaky step forward. I can walk, she whispered, tears in her eyes. Eli grinned tiredly. Told you I'd fix you, but then his scanner beeped sharply. A strange code flashed across the screen. Royal encryption detected. Eli froze. He looked at the scanner, then at Lyra, who stood glowing faintly under the workshop light. Something deep inside him whispered that his life had just changed forever. Outside, the night sky lit up with the red glow of incoming patrol ships. They were searching for someone, and Eli now knew exactly who. Night returned to the slum city like a blanket of metal and smoke. The air buzzed with strange energy. From the window of his workshop, Eli could see searchlights sweeping across the rooftops. The sound of patrol drones echoed through the narrow alleys like mechanical hornets. Something big was happening. Inside, Lyra sat on the floor, her new exo-legs folded beneath her like a curious animal. She moved them slowly, testing each joint. Every time she took a small step, the servos hummed softly. A gentle sound, almost alive. Eli stood by the window, worry on his face. He had seen this kind of search before, back when the Empire wanted to make humans disappear. But this time it felt different. The patrols were too many, too focused, and they were getting closer to his district. He turned to Lyra. You said bad people are looking for you, he said quietly. Are those the same ones outside? Lyra looked down, fiddling with the wires of a broken drone. Yes, she whispered. They always find me. They never stop. Eli crouched beside her. Why? What do they want with you? She hesitated. They say I belong to them, but I don't. I just want to be free. Before Eli could ask more, a sudden knock rattled the metal door. 3 sharp hits. Military style. Eli's heart skipped. He grabbed a wrench and motioned for Lyra to hide. Under the floorboards, he whispered. Now. She obeyed, moving fast on her new legs. Eli lifted a metal panel behind the work table, revealing a small hiding space filled with spare coils and wires. Lyra slipped inside and he covered it just as the door creaked open. A tall alien officer stepped in, flanked by 2 armored guards. Their armor gleamed silver with the royal emblem of the Empire, 3 stars over a burning crown. Human mechanic Eli Voss, the officer said coldly. We're conducting a search. A fugitive was last seen near this sector. Eli wiped his hands on his dirty apron and tried to sound calm. A fugitive? You think someone would hide here? Look around, officer. My customers barely have money for spare bolts. The officer's sharp eyes scanned the room. We are not looking for thieves, human. We're looking for something far more valuable. He took out a small scanning device and waved it slowly. The scanner beeped once faintly when it passed near the work table. Eli's stomach twisted. What's under there? The officer asked. Scrap metal, Eli said quickly. You can check if you want. The officer smiled thinly. Oh, I will. He motioned to his guards. They began moving things, scanning every corner. One of them kicked aside a crate, revealing the floor panel where Lyra hid. The officer bent down, his finger tracing the edge of the metal. Interesting, he murmured. Eli's pulse raced. That's just a storage compartment, he said, forcing a nervous laugh. Nothing but broken tech. The officer looked up at him. You humans have a bad habit of lying. Eli met his gaze. And you soldiers have a bad habit of bullying the poor. The tension hung heavy in the air. For a moment, neither moved. Then a voice crackled through the officer's comms. Sector 7 clear. No trace found. Move to the next block. The officer stood slowly. You're lucky, human. For now. He turned and walked out, leaving a small blinking device on the shelf as he went. The guards followed, and the door slammed shut behind them. Eli waited a long moment before moving. Then he lifted the floor panel. Lyra crawled out, her eyes wide with fear. They almost found me, she whispered. Eli crouched and picked up the small blinking device. It was a tracking bug, standard military issue. His jaw tightened. They didn't find you, but they'll be back. He crushed the bug under his boot. The light went out. Lyra looked at him with tears forming in her eyes. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have helped me. Eli shook his head. Don't say that. I made a promise, remember? I fix what's broken. That includes you. She smiled faintly, but her eyes still held fear. You'll be in danger because of me. Eli leaned against the work table, his face thoughtful. Danger doesn't scare me anymore. Losing people does. He paused, then said softly, I had a daughter once. She didn't survive the last war. When I found you that night, I saw her face for a second. Maybe that's why I couldn't walk away. Lyra looked at him silently, and something gentle crossed her face. Then I'll be strong for her, she said. I promise. Outside, the patrol ships passed again, their searchlights cutting across the sky like knives. The city's loudspeakers repeated the same message. By order of the Imperial throne, anyone sheltering the missing royal will face execution. Eli froze. Missing royal? His mind raced back to the posters he'd seen earlier that day. The lost princess. The reward. The symbol on the officer's armor. It was the same as the one etched faintly on Lyra's Exo-Legs. He turned toward her slowly. Lyra, he said, his voice shaking slightly. That message. It's about you, isn't it? She looked away, her lips trembling. Please don't hate me, she whispered. I didn't mean for this to happen. Eli stared at her for a long moment. Then he took a deep breath and said, I don't hate you. But we need to leave, tonight. He began packing tools, power cells, and scraps into a bag. The small workshop that had been his world for years suddenly felt too small, too dangerous. As they prepared to leave, Eli glanced one last time at his old workbench. Guess it's time to fix something bigger than machines, he muttered. Above them, thunder rolled, not from the sky but from the engines of approaching warships. And in that moment, Eli realized the truth. He wasn't just protecting a lost child. He was standing against the Empire itself. The workshop had never been this quiet before. Every ticking sound, every hum from the machines echoed against the walls like whispers of warning. Outside, the city glowed with red alarm lights. Patrol ships drifted across the sky like vultures searching for prey. Inside, Eli stood before Lyra, adjusting the final connection on her Exo-Legs. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from exhaustion. He hadn't slept in 2 nights. The parts he used were unstable, scavenged from outlawed tech. One wrong move and the circuits could fry both her legs and his entire workshop. All right, Eli said softly. Let's see if these hold. Lyra looked up at him with trust and a faint smile. I'm ready. He stepped back and activated the power link. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light, blue energy flowed through the Exo-Legs, running along the joints like rivers of lightning. The air around her shimmered. The circuit sang and the entire room flickered. Lyra took her first step. It was small, hesitant, but steady. Her eyes widened. I can feel them, she said. Not just move them, I can feel them. Eli stared in disbelief. The legs were meant to be mechanical, simple prosthetics. But the energy flowing through them was alive. He checked his instruments. Power output was off the scale. That's impossible, he muttered. No tech should react like that. Lyra took another step. The metal floor rang with each touch and tiny waves of energy rippled outward, making nearby tools vibrate. The lights above flickered again. Stop, Lyra, Eli said quickly. Something's not right, but she couldn't stop. The energy kept building. Her body glowed faintly, like starlight trapped beneath her skin. The Exo-Legs pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Eli, it's not me, she said, panicked. It's them! They're alive! Eli grabbed a stabilizer from the table and slammed it onto the power conduit. The room went dark for a second. When the light returned, Lyra was kneeling on the floor, breathing hard. The glow faded and the tools stopped shaking. Eli dropped to one knee beside her. You okay? She nodded weakly. I didn't mean to. I can't control it. Eli looked at the readouts again. The data made no sense. The energy wasn't from any known power source, it was biological and mechanical at the same time. Something inside her was amplifying the power. He ran a diagnostic scan on the Exo-Legs. A strange symbol appeared on the screen, a royal encryption mark. The same one he'd seen on the soldier's armor. He felt his stomach twist. Lyra, he said slowly, these legs, they were never made for ordinary people. They're coded with royal tech. That means they were made for someone from the Imperial line. Lyra looked confused, scared. But I don't remember anything. I only remember running. Before Eli could answer, the ground trembled. A deep rumble rolled through the city, followed by a flash of light in the distance. Eli ran to the window. The sky was burning. Massive ships, black and gold, were descending from orbit. Their engines shook the ground as they cut through the clouds like knives. The Imperial fleet had arrived. By the stars, Eli whispered. That's the royal flagship. Lyra joined him at the window, her small hands clutching the frame. Her voice trembled. She found me. Who? Eli asked, though the answer already formed in his mind. My mother, Lyra whispered. The Queen. Eli turned to her slowly. You're saying, you're the princess of the Empire? Lyra's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to be. I just wanted to be free. She doesn't see me as a daughter. She sees me as a tool, a weapon to keep control. Eli stared at her. It all made sense now. The patrols, the encryption signal, the tech no one else could afford. He felt a chill run down his spine. The workshop lights flickered again as a transmission signal hit. A robotic voice echoed through the city's comm systems. Attention, citizens. The Royal Queen herself has arrived. All sectors are now under Imperial control. Any human caught aiding the fugitive will be executed. Lyra stepped back from the window, trembling. She'll destroy everything to find me. Eli clenched his fists. Then we'll make sure she doesn't. She looked at him, hope and fear mixing in her eyes. You'd stand against her? For me, he smiled tiredly. I've already stood against half the galaxy just to keep you safe. What's one queen more? A loud explosion shook the building as a patrol drone crashed outside. They were scanning every block. Time was running out. Eli grabbed his pack, stuffing tools and spare power cells inside. We're leaving now. But where will we go? Lyra asked, panic rising in her voice. Somewhere they won't look, Eli said, pulling on his worn jacket. The junk ring beyond the city. No royal ship goes near it. He opened the hidden hatch behind the workshop that led into the underground tunnels. The air down there smelled of rust and old oil, but it was safe. For now. As they disappeared into the dark, Lyra glanced back at the glowing Exo-Legs. For the first time, they didn't feel heavy. They felt alive, waiting, as if the universe itself had given her a second chance to stand tall. Above them, the Queen's flagship hovered over the city like a floating palace of light and fury. Her voice echoed across the sky. Find my daughter. Bring her to me. Alive. Eli and Lyra didn't look back. They just kept walking deeper into the shadows, unaware that the greatest secret of the Empire was walking right beside him, on legs built by a poor human mechanic. The next morning came without sunlight. The twin suns were still hidden behind thick smoke clouds left by the descending royal fleet. The air smelled of metal, fuel, and fear. From the window of an abandoned transport tunnel, Eli could see the city below, silent and gray, crawling with Imperial patrols. He and Lyra had taken shelter deep underground. The walls around them were cold, carved from rock and leftover steel. Flickering lights lined the narrow tunnel. Old posters from the war years clung to the walls, half-burned, showing smiling humans and slogans that no one believed anymore. Eli sat beside a dying heater, cleaning his hands with a dirty rag. He was exhausted, but his mind wouldn't rest. The image of the royal fleet haunted him, the golden symbols of the Empire shining over the poor districts like an omen. Lyra sat quietly a few feet away, staring at the faint blue glow from her Exo-Legs. The new limbs had stopped trembling, but their faint hum still filled the silence. Eli finally broke it. You knew this would happen, didn't you? She didn't answer right away. Her voice came out small, almost lost. I thought I could run forever. I thought maybe if I hid far enough, she'd stop looking. Your mother? Eli asked, though the word felt strange on his tongue. Lyra nodded. She's not like other mothers. She's the Queen of the Empire. They call her the Star Empress. Eli leaned back, his eyes narrowing. So it's true. You're her daughter? Lyra's eyes shimmered with sadness. I didn't ask to be born royal. They wanted me to be a weapon, half biological, half machine. That's why my body reacts the way it does. They built the Exo-Legs when I was a baby. They said it was a gift, but I think it was a chain. Eli rubbed his temples. A child turned into tech, figures. The Empire's always good at making monsters. She looked at him, voice trembling. Do you hate me now? Eli met her eyes and shook his head. I don't hate kids, Lyra. I hate the people who break them. Lyra smiled weakly, her eyes wet with tears. You're not like anyone I've met. He grinned faintly. Yeah, I get that a lot. A low rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. Eli stood quickly. They're here. They ran to a narrow opening where the tunnel curved toward the city's edge. Through the crack, Eli saw it, the Queen's flagship. It floated in the sky like a black sun, surrounded by thousands of drones. Its hull shimmered gold and silver engraved with alien symbols. From its core, a beam of light scanned the streets below. Every time the light passed, the ground shook. Lyra's face went pale. She's searching for me. Eli cursed under his breath. She's burning half the city for one kid. She won't stop, Lyra whispered. Not until I'm found, Eli turned to her. Then we get out before she looks underground. There's an old shuttle bay at the edge of the tunnels. If I can fix one of those crafts, we can leave the planet. Leave? Lyra asked, her voice full of fear and hope. Yeah, Eli said. There's a mining belt not far from here. No patrols, no empire. Just rock and silence. We'll be safe there. They moved quickly through the tunnels. Every few minutes, the sound of explosions echoed above them. The Queen's soldiers were storming building after building. Eli's chest tightened with anger. All of this, entire neighborhoods destroyed because of one child who just wanted to live. When they reached the old shuttle bay, Eli's heart sank. The ships were ancient, rusted, and half covered in dust. Only one looked usable, a small freighter with a cracked cockpit window. He ran his hand along the hull. She'll fly, he muttered. If she doesn't, we'll make her. Lyra helped as best she could, her exo-legs making faint metallic steps. She connected power lines while Eli worked on the thrusters. Hours passed. Then finally the ship hummed to life, coughing smoke before settling into a steady rhythm. Eli smiled. We're in business. But before they could board, a loud boom shook the bay. A beam of light pierced the ceiling, blasting the floor apart. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, the figures of Imperial soldiers stood before them. Tall, armored, and silent, and between them, projected in shimmering light, was the Queen herself. Her image towered above them, calm and terrifying. She was tall, regal, her face flawless but cold. Her golden crown glowed faintly and her eyes burned like suns. Eli Voss, she said, her voice echoing through the bay. You have something that belongs to me. Eli stood his ground, breathing hard. She's not a thing. She's a child. The Queen tilted her head slightly. A child who carries the power of 1,000 worlds. Do you know what you've done by keeping her alive? I gave her a chance to walk, Eli said. Something your machines couldn't do without chains. The Queen's expression didn't change. You misunderstand, human. You are beneath judgment. Surrender my daughter, and I will grant you mercy. Lyra stepped forward, trembling but defiant. Mother, stop. Please, he saved me. The Queen's hologram flickered as she looked at her daughter. You are my legacy. You do not belong to the dirt. Tears streamed down Lyra's cheeks. I belong where I'm free. The Queen's gaze hardened. Then freedom will destroy you. Eli grabbed Lyra's arm and shouted, Hold on. He hit the ship's ignition. The engines roared to life, blasting dust and heat through the tunnel. The Queen's soldiers fired, but the ship lifted off, scraping against the tunnel walls. Flames chased them as they shot through a collapsing passage toward the sky. As they broke through the smoke, Eli glanced out the viewport and saw the Queen's massive ship turning slowly to follow. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The stars looked close enough to touch, bright, endless, and cold. But for Eli and Lyra, the sky was no longer beautiful. It was a battlefield. The small freighter groaned as it pushed through the upper atmosphere, smoke trailing behind like a wounded bird. Warning lights flashed across the cockpit. The engine core screamed, overheating. Every gauge on the control panel flickered red. Eli gripped the flight stick, his jaw tight. Come on, old girl, don't fall apart now. Behind him, Lyra clung to her seat, her exo-legs glowing faintly from stress. Outside the viewport, a swarm of Imperial drones sliced through the clouds, closing in. Their weapons flashed like tiny suns. Eli, they're catching up. Lyra shouted, I can see that. He barked, twisting the controls. The ship dived suddenly, dodging a burst of plasma fire. The blast grazed the wing, ripping off a panel. Warning alarms wailed like dying sirens. Lyra grabbed the console. Let me help. Stay put, Eli snapped. You'll just... But before he could finish, Lyra's eyes glowed faint blue. The air inside the cockpit changed, charged. She raised her hand slightly, and for a moment, the ship stopped shaking. The alarms dimmed. The power readings stabilized. Eli blinked in disbelief. What did you just do? Lyra looked dazed. I don't know. I just felt the ship. Like it was part of me. Eli didn't have time to question it. The radar beeped again. More drones inbound. Then feel it faster. Because they're not giving up. He punched the throttle, sending the freighter spinning through the high atmosphere. Clouds broke apart around them. For a brief second, the stars opened above, an ocean of darkness and light. But then the Queen's voice echoed across their comm system, calm and terrible. My child, enough running. Come home and I will spare the human. Lyra froze. The sound of that voice made her tremble. She's here. Eli's jaw clenched. Ignore her. She's trying to mess with your head. The Queen's voice softened. You were never meant to hide among the weak. You were born to command them. Every drop of your blood carries my power. Lyra shut her eyes tight, shaking her head. No, I'm not you. Suddenly the comms crackled, then went dead. Eli switched to manual frequency. We lost communication. She's jamming everything. She always does, Lyra whispered. She controls everything she touches. The ship jolted violently. The rear shields collapsed under another hit. One drone broke through the defensive field, attaching itself to the hull like a parasite. Hold tight, Eli yelled. He pulled a lever, ejecting a burst of compressed gas from the side vents. The explosion threw the drone off balance, but not far enough. Lyra looked at him desperately. Eli, if they hit us again, we'll fall. He grinned through his exhaustion. Then we make the fall count. He turned the freighter toward a nearby storm field, an asteroid belt wrapped in electromagnetic clouds.
No sane pilot would fly through it.
Which meant it was perfect. As they entered the storm, lightning struck from every direction. Blue and white bolts danced across the hull. The ship's systems flickered again. Eli wrestled the controls. This field's messing with the guidance. I can't see a thing. I can, Lyra whispered. Her eyes glowed brighter now, bluer than before. The Exo-Legs hummed like engines. The power running through her body connected with the ship's systems, syncing completely. The ship's path steadied almost as if it was flying itself. Eli looked at her in awe. You're merging with the ship? She nodded, her voice faint. Just for a while. But it's taking my energy. Don't push too hard, Eli warned. You're not a machine. Her eyes flicked to him, a sad little smile on her face. Aren't I? Before he could respond, the ship lurched again. Another drone had followed them into the storm, firing blindly. Eli activated the rear cannons, but they were jammed. He slammed his fist against the console. Damn it. Let me, Lyra said. She extended one glowing hand toward the control panel. The lights flared and the ship fired on its own. A blinding burst of plasma tore through the darkness, striking the drone squarely. It exploded in a cloud of burning metal. The ship fell silent again, except for the hiss of the storm around them. Eli turned to her. You just saved us. Lyra leaned back, breathing hard. No, I saved you, he smiled weakly. You've got your mother's fire, kid, but not her heart. The ship finally cleared the storm field and drifted into open space. The sensors showed no sign of pursuit. For now, they were safe. Eli set the autopilot toward a nearby asteroid outpost, an old mining base no one used anymore. We'll rest there, he said. Refuel, make repairs. Then we figure out our next move. Lyra nodded, closing her eyes. I'm so tired. Sleep, Eli said gently. I'll keep watch, she smiled faintly. You sound like a father. Eli looked out the viewport, his eyes distant. Maybe once. I was? The freighter drifted silently toward the shadowed asteroid. Behind them, far across the void, the Queen's flagship floated in orbit, waiting. Inside her golden throne room, the Queen stared at the holographic trail of her daughter's ship. Her face was calm, but her voice was sharp as ice. So the human thinks he can outrun me. Let him try. The stars have no place left to hide. Her generals bowed. The Queen raised her hand and 1,000 ships began to move. Back in the freighter, Eli watched the stars pass by, unaware that the galaxy itself was turning to face him. He didn't know if they'd survive tomorrow, but one thing was certain: he wasn't giving her up. Not to a queen, not to an empire, not to anyone. The asteroid outpost hung in the darkness like a ghost, an old mining station carved into rock and metal. Its surface was scarred from forgotten wars. its corridors silent except for the hum of old generators. It was the perfect hiding place. Or so Eli hoped. The freighter landed with a shudder. Sparks flew from the rear thrusters as they powered down for the last time. Eli exhaled, his hands shaking from exhaustion. "That's it," he said. "We're grounded. If they find us here, there's no second flight." Lyra stood by the viewport staring at the stars. Her exo-legs glowed faintly, their light reflecting in her violet eyes. "She's coming," she whispered. "I can feel her." Eli frowned. "You sure?" She nodded. "Her ships are moving closer." "The signal inside me, it's reacting to her presence," Eli cursed under his breath. "Then we don't have much time." He began to pace, thinking fast. The outpost still had communication equipment. Maybe he could jam the royal frequency or send a decoy signal. But before he could decide, a deep vibration ran through the floor. The old metal walls groaned. Then outside the viewport, a shadow fell over the asteroid. The Queen's flagship, vast and golden, descended through the dark like a burning crown. Its engines lit up the void, and the surface of the asteroid cracked under the heat. Lyra trembled. "She's here." Eli reached for his plasma cutter, though he knew it was useless against warships. "Stay behind me," he said. The air shimmered, and suddenly a tall figure appeared in the room, a holographic projection. The Queen stood there, her regal armor gleaming, her face calm and flawless, but her eyes burned with something cold and ancient. "Eli Voss," she said, "your defiance impresses me. A human mechanic outwitting my entire fleet. You have earned my curiosity." Eli glared at her. "I don't want your curiosity. I want you gone." The Queen smiled faintly. "You have something I cannot ignore." She turned her gaze toward Lyra. "My daughter." Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I'm not your daughter. I'm your experiment." The Queen's expression hardened. "You were created to bring balance to a broken empire. You were never meant to live among dirt and rust." Eli cut in, his tone sharp. "You call this balance? Turning your own child into a weapon?" The Queen's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "You humans speak of morality as if you ever had the right. You burned your own world before we even found you." Eli met her stare. "Maybe we did, but at least we know when something's wrong. He pointed at her. "You've forgotten what it means to care." For the first time, the Queen's expression faltered. Just slightly. Her gaze shifted to Lyra. "You have my power, child. My blood. You could rule beside me. I can erase this human's crime if you return." Lyra shook her head, tears forming. "He didn't commit a crime. He saved me." The Queen's eyes softened. "Saved you from what?" "From being your weapon," Lyra said, her voice breaking. "From being something that destroys instead of helps." Silence filled the air. Even the hum of the ship seemed to fade. Eli took a step forward. "You want her to lead your empire? Then maybe start by letting her choose who she wants to be." The Queen's gaze turned to him again, sharp, studying. "You risked your life for a child who is not your own." "Why?" Eli's voice was low but steady. "Because I lost one once. I couldn't save her. But this time, I could try." Something in his words reached the Queen. The flicker of emotion in her face was almost invisible. But Lyra saw it. The Queen turned away, her voice quieter now. "You cannot hide forever, Eli Voss. The galaxy will not forgive you for taking what is mine." Eli smirked tiredly. "The galaxy doesn't have to forgive me. Just her." For a long moment the Queen said nothing. Then she looked at her daughter one last time. "Your path is yours," she said softly. "But know this, if you ever return, the throne will still be waiting." And with that, her hologram faded into light. Lyra stood frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks. She let us go?" Eli lowered his weapon. "For now." He smiled faintly. "Guess even queens can change their minds." Outside, the massive flagship pulled away, its engines roaring into the black void. The sky cleared. The stars returned, bright, distant, and free. Lyra turned to Eli. "You gave up everything for me." He looked at her and shook his head. "No, kid. You gave me something back, hope." She smiled through her tears. "Will we be safe now?" Eli gazed out at the stars. "Safe? Maybe not. But free? Yeah, that's enough." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Come on, princess. Let's fix up this ship. We've got a whole galaxy to see." Lyra laughed softly. the first real laugh since they'd met. And as the freighter drifted away from the broken asteroid, leaving the Queen and her empire behind, Eli looked out into the endless stars and whispered, "Just a poor mechanic, huh?" Not anymore. Somewhere far behind in her golden throne room, the Queen watched the stars fade from view. She touched the empty seat beside her and closed her eyes. For the first time in decades, the ruler of the galaxy felt something she had long forgotten. Love. And in that quiet moment, the galaxy turned a little softer.